Hi you guys, it's me, Gabriella Battelle, author of the Don't series. Welcome back to my channel. I have an indie book for you today. That's right, these are very special to my heart, indie books, obviously, because I publish these puppies myself, but I don't get to read them a lot for just reasons, and I'm so happy that now I am able to pick up one. This is Hilltop House by S.Q. McGrath. Thank you, S.Q. McGrath, for this copy of this book. I should probably finish the intro first before I dive into that book. So I've got actually a couple of indie books that I'm going to be reading. This one, Hilltop House by S.Q. McGrath, and Reach by Olivia McCarthy. This one is a horror novel. I think it's adult. It doesn't strike me as YA. There is like a YA character, but there are also some not there are also some not YA things. And then Reach is a dystopian novel that is YA, and I've cracked into both of them. I'm very excited about both of them. This one is the first one that I'm gonna absolutely finish, and I am a third of the way through reading it, and I am obsessed. This book is freakish. There's a house, Hilltop House, and it thinks, it feels, and it grows some very tight attachments to certain people, women, certain young women that have lived in it, and the rest it hates. So it's very much a haunted house. I'm getting a little bit of Christine vibes. So it's told in 3 points of view. One is Corinne, who's the young adult. She's a teenager. She's still in high school, like 17 or something like that. And she's really cool. She's classic goth. So she's, like fishnet tights and the leather and the piercings, and she is all into her goth era. But she also has this great personality about her where it's a little bit devil may care, but there's also a little bit of a softness. But she's also got these elements about her that are really great. Like, even though she's mad at her mom, she's trying with her mom. Or she enjoys working with elderly people. Or she really loved her grandma. So it's this really cool combination where it's like absolutely hardcore goth, but it's not a stereotype. And she's also no nonsense. So she hears that this house is haunted and she's like, okay. Okay, sure. So she's not, I don't know, she's just really cool to read. The best way to explain her is that she knows who she is. She's working through the stuff she's working on, and she feels like a person, not a caricature of a person. So she's not your classic goth. She's not your manic pixie dream girl. She's not anything like that. She's a person. A person that I can kind of see myself in some instances. And so she's really cool to read. The mother, who is the second point of view, her name is Maeve. She's really cool to read. It could be really easy to reduce her to that kind of absent mom, comes in later in life, takes over, messes stuff up. But when we get inside her head, we really see that she's trying. She's not perfect. She makes bad choices. Some stuff has happened in the past where we don't know what's going on, so there's that added mystery, which is really exciting. I'm really eager to see what happened and where that goes. But again, she feels like an actual person. She feels really fleshed out and lovable. And then the third point of view is the house. The house is a freak. Oh my goodness. This house, it doesn't just like these two young women. Hi, editor me realizing I should clarify one thing. Everything that I'm about to describe, it's not vivid, it's not explicit, it's not graphic, it's not obscene, none of that. It is just very clear and atmospheric and eerie. And honestly, the fact that it's not spelled out and graphic, I think makes it better, makes it creepier, because you know in the back of your head what's going on, and that realization just sits with you the whole time. So the first young woman that ever lived in the house, and then this new Cora, the new girl. The house wants to be with, wants to own, wants to feel. I, this is a PG channel, so I can't entirely get into what the house wants, but I think that's enough of a clue for you to get what this house wants, and it's so well written. It is freaky. Like, I'm feeling icky for Cora as this house is ogling her. The house is also really jealous. So with the first young woman who lived in this house, it didn't like her husband because it was seeing things, which again, PG channel, can't talk about that, which just adds a whole other layer of like creepy, because it's like, this feels like voyeurism. Oh, the house is just, oh my goodness, this house. So anyway, it doesn't like her husband because it's jealous of her husband, but then a baby comes along. So they have a baby, and the house hates the baby because it feels like the baby is what really winds up taking her, the girl, away from it, and then it did something to the I haven't gotten that far yet. It did something to the baby, and it's trying to be that possessive with Cora now, and this is all a third of the way into the book, so I don't even know what's gonna happen for the rest of the time. I am gonna meet you again at the halfway mark, and then I'll meet you at the 2/3 mark and at the end, but oh my goodness. I Look, I will come back and have more coherent thoughts. I'll see you in a bit. Hi, so I am back. I am halfway through Hilltop House, and I don't have super many more thoughts than I did at the beginning. Like, it's still just plugging along as a great book, but I do have some thoughts that I don't think I mentioned. I know I didn't mention in the first clip. So, one of the things is that SQ McGrath has such a great way of taking just like little details and using them to the utmost to just creep you out. Like, I'm just gonna give one example that's right at the beginning. It's constantly talking about this woman's teeth and how it wants to hear her teeth chatter, and it's like a fetish for this thing. And just the way that the house describes, "Ooh, I want my walls to be painted," kind of just these little details that are taken and then put a spin on to make the house just disgusting. I continue to like Maeve and Cora. They are both great characters. Maeve is really doing her best to do right by her daughter, to protect Cora, and Cora is she's oddly mature. Like, she's not so mature that you're like, "Oh my goodness, this is not a child. This is a grown woman." She still feels like a teenager, but the way that she is working through things, the way that she doesn't necessarily just jump at the first thing that's available to her, she thinks things through. She kind of tests things. She notices when something's bad, which is another great aspect of this book, is that both Cora and Maeve are working through getting away from a toxic relationship. So Maeve, we don't have a whole lot that's going on, or let me phrase that. We don't have a lot of information about what is going on with Maeve, except that she's running away from a very toxic relationship that we got a little sneak preview of. And again, details. Oh, that man was disgusting. I hated him. And presumably that is also why she's running away, and there might be like another evil force going on. I can't really tell if it's actually an evil force besides the house or if it's just, real life demons that she's running away from, and then the house is just one more thing on top of that. And then Cora herself, there's a guy that she's got a crush on. His name is Ben, and he just did something so scummy, and the house had something to do about that. So for a split second, I was kind of like, well, the house did one good thing because Ben was being so scummy. But what's really nice is that Cora recognized it as being scummy. Like, she knows he's bad. She knows he's bad, and she's working through it. She's struggling. It just feels so good and real. And then one last thing that I want to add is Brian. I adore him. He's such a good friend to her. And they don't feel overly perfect. They don't feel uh again mature to the point of like there has never been a relationship that has gone this smoothly. They feel genuine. We have also found out a little bit about more what happened in this house. We've had some baby haunting appearances. There are ants all over the place, which, the best way to creep me out is to just do ants. Something, I think I know what happened. I'm not going to spoil it. Something just where I stopped, very intriguing, just happened, and I'm going to read more, so I will see you at the 2/3 mark. Hi, so not at the 2/3 mark. I just realized that there was something kind of key that I forgot to mention that have been developed in the last 150, 160 pages, and that is the relationship with the house. So, you know how I was talking about how Maeve and Cora, they are trying to work their way through out of toxic relationships. Okay, well, this house just being in its head is so discomforting, and it is like it is like listening to the inside of the ultimate toxic relationship. It is so gross, and the thing that scares me the most is I can't tell because okay, so like, back up. I gotta back up a little bit. At first, Cora was like, "This haunted house stuff, nonsense, absolute balderdash. I'm not even giving this the time of day." And now she believes she's noticing stuff is going on. So she's like, "Okay, something's happening here." But I'm scared that maybe she's kind of going for it. like she likes it. And I'm like, no, please run. And I'll just give you one example that's a tiny bit spoilery, but it'll give you the perfect example of how this is all working. So the house doesn't want her to leave. Like it wants her to stay inside of it. And so it releases germs like a virus from the walls so that she gets sick, so that she can't leave. And I'm like, get out of the house. Get out. I just read a line that says, she's speaking and she says, I think it's friendly. I actually made it past to the 2/3 mark. I got to the 3/4 mark, and not super much to say because this book, while hugely vibe based, it's not super plot based. So there's not like a particular thread that keeps it moving forward constantly. It's just a bunch of vibes and a bunch of questions, which I love. But we've just continued to get some vibes and some questions and actually a couple answers. Like we found out more about the mom, and there was like a little side subplot that weaved in and came together, that again continued with the vibes and the mom and the daughter and the friend, and so that kind of just all resolved itself. So the only thing that hasn't hugely been resolved is, well, the house. And then although we did get some answers about the mom and her past, it's not wrapped up, and I feel that that is going to be a huge thing in the last little bit. And so I'm actually going to take a break now. I could finish it tonight, but I actually have a book to write. So I'm going to wrap up for the evening and I'm going to finish it tomorrow morning, and I will tell you how it ends because I can only believe that it's going to be a doozy because the ick of the house and the relationship and the girl and the creepies and the hauntedness, it just keeps racking up higher, and it can't be anything but good from here. Okay, you know that moment when you read a book and every tiny little detail that has been dropped along the way suddenly clicks into place all at once? That was this book. That was the ending. It was so good. I was completely satisfied. There was one tiny little piece that I was a little bit confused about, but the rest of it, everything wrapped up, everything was satisfying. It made me so happy. I wish I could spoil it, but I'm not going to because if you like horror, you need to come read this book, Hilltop House by S.Q. McGrath. Also, tiny little fun fact, I am inadvertently reading stuff that has Magnus Archives references in it because there's a Hilltop House in the Magnus Archives, which you guys know I love, love, love. And I'm also about to read V.E. Schwab's The Archived, which sounds very much like The Archivist or like the archives that John Sims is working in the Magnus Archives. So just random fun fact. But seriously, horror, if you like it, if you like haunted houses, if you like just the creeps, if you like there was something I want to say, but I can't because that is a major spoiler. If you just want an ending where it all clicks into place at once, read this book. It's awesome. Okay, so I have moved on to Reach by O. McCarthy, and I am having a fun time. It's a dystopian. Reach lives way in the future where there's this despotic government that is purely science efficiency, keeping everybody in line based. There's no freedom. People don't really even have their own names. They have to name themselves after nouns or verbs or whatever. Reach has always been in a little bit of an awkward position because he is half Martian. He's half Martian because his mom went on a space trip and came back with a baby boy. And yeah, he's half Martian. That's what she told everybody because he's actually half rebel. She actually met a rebel out in space, and that would have fared very, very poorly for the baby boy. So she said he was half Martian, but in exchange for that, now they want to do experiments on him. And so he has to go with the government to work with the experiments, but he's not just going there to sit there and be experimented on. He's going in there so he can get in, so he can infiltrate, so that he can make a change, so that he can help this rebellion, so that he can make things safe and better for everyone. And I'm enjoying it. It's giving vibes of little tidbits of Divergent, little tidbits of Ender's Game, and little tidbits of Uglies. So if you kind of took little specks of each of those three and threw them together in a pot, that's the vibe, the general vibe of this book. It's very easy to read, very quickly moving. We've already gotten through a bunch of different places. There was a bit of explaining right at the beginning, and there continues to be explaining through the dialogue a lot, I've noticed, but we know exactly what's going on, and now we're slowly but surely getting to interact with more people and more areas, and I'm excited to see how the experiments go. Like, are there any other young people that he's going to be interacting with? How's this gonna work? I really enjoy Reach. Reach is a great, kind, nervous, not one of those people who just jumps into danger, jumps into adventure like he wants it, but he's also very determined. He's very level-headed, but he feels his emotions. So there's a lot of different dimensions, a lot of different layers going on with him. Same thing with his mom. His mom's really cool. I know I might have made her sound a little bit like she was this horrible person, but you really can tell when you're reading the book that she loves this kid and she's trying her best to do right by this kid, because he would have been killed if they knew he was half rebel. So she made up this lie because that was the only way he was going to live. And of course, there's this complicated dynamic then because of that between him and his mom. And it's really interesting and it's really enjoyable and kind of lovable to read. So I will let you know when I get to the 1/3 point what exactly happens. And yeah. See you in a second. Hi, so I am at the 1/3 mark. Not too much has changed. We're still plugging right along. We've gotten to some new locations. I keep noting some very familiar aspects and scenes. So you know how I said that it's a mixture of the vibes of Divergent and Ender's Game and Uglies. Well, now we've tossed in a little bit of Insurgent by Veronica Roth and a little bit of The Hunger Games by Suzanne Collins. I'll give you some specifics. He has someone who is going to prepare him for a big fancy dinner where he's going to be shown off to all these people who are going to be working with him. And this woman who is supposed to get him ready for the event, her name is Sty, which we all know is short for stylist. Like in the Hunger Games, this woman is basically Cinna. She's also a little bit of Tori from Divergent because her mannerisms just reminded me of Tori, and she's giving advice like Tori and like Cinna, just totally these vibes. Oh, McCarthy used the word aptitude test. I kid you not, there was the word aptitude test. I was like, that's Divergent. And so, yes, very, very much. If you are just missing the vibes of those earlier YA dystopian novels, then you're gonna like the vibes that this book gives. It is a little playful. I don't know how to explain it, but it's got a little bit of a playful feel to it. And right now we're moving into something unexpected. I thought experiments were going to begin, but well, I'm not going to tell you. You have to come read it. The experiments have not started yet. This other thing is happening first, and we'll see what happens. I will meet you at the halfway mark. And I'm actually not at the 50% mark. I am at the 66% mark. I am 2/3 of the way through this book. Things move quickly. I mean, and I don't mean that it all happens within a short amount of time. I just mean that the amount of time that we're there seeing things happen, stuff is always happening. It's moving quickly. You are always getting some kind of explanation or some kind of backstory or some kind of new tidbit about the plan and the rebellion or the government itself, stuff like that. So very, very quick moving, including the romance, because there's a little bit of a romance going on. That what's happening. Bam, bam, bam. By the way, one thing I forgot to mention, you know how I was talking about all those elements that you've seen in other YA dystopian books? Well, if you remember in Hunger Games, or actually not Hunger Games, The Mockingjay, where Katniss and all the people in District 13 would have like their schedule or something tattooed on their arm, there's something very similar to that in this. So I am just getting all the old dystopian vibes. Reach is very much, I guess you almost want to call him a cinnamon button character. Like, the kid just always does his best to do what's right. So if you like flawed characters, he might be different than what you're expecting, but if you love those cinnamon bun type characters where it's just pretty much they are good, sweet, wholesome the whole time, you're really gonna like him. I feel like there was something else that I've been meaning to say, but I can't remember. So if I think of it, I will let you know. And that's going to be as I finish the book. because we're in the home stretch here. Yes, the hat changed. Hi, I have made it to the end. I have finished Reach by O. McCarthy. Thank you again, O. McCarthy, for this copy so that I could read it. I really, really appreciate it. I remembered the thing that I was wanting to tell you, and it was just that this really did have a playful feel to it. Like all the tropes, all the funny, cute humor, little tidbits added to the dystopian revolution. That should be a thing too. Here I am with Following and now revolution. The revolution mixed in with all that and the danger and stuff like that. There was really just a lighthearted, close to your heartness about it. I also wanted to super quick talk about one thing that I noticed in the last segment, but I wanted a second to think about it before I said anything. And so I just wanted to clarify one thing that I think could easily get misconstrued, and that was when you find out about the history of nations. So it talks about how the world was before all the dystopianness, there were men dominated the world, they ruled everything, it all collapsed, and then women came in charge and they created this government that happens to be pretty tyrannical and despotic. And I thought, oh, it might be kind of easy to misconstrue that as feeling like this is what happens when women were in charge. I am absolutely certain that is not what was meant. I'm absolutely certain that what this was saying was, in either direction, when men or women are not treated equally, when one group of people is treated like they are inherently better than the other and the other is treated poorly, that's bad. I think that was just the message that was going around. The last third moved just like a dystopian novel. We were getting a little bit of Catching Fire vibes right there with the, public figurehead for the government, darling of the capital, if you will. Never stopped moving, sped right through everything. And I gotta say, something that I did not expect happened. I was caught off guard by that, so well done. And of course, it's the first of, I want to say, a trilogy, so there's some unanswered questions. So here's my grand conclusion. If you are just aching for all of those tropes and all of those vibes of the 2010s YA era, you should check out Reach by O. McCarthy. And that wraps up this video. Thank you so much to SQ McGrath and O. McCarthy for the copies of your books. I truly, truly appreciate it. It was an honor to be able to read your work. This was a fun time, and thank you guys for being here with me. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and please, please, please like the video. I would super appreciate that. And if you like my videos, plural, if you could hit the subscribe button so that you get a little alert every single time I come to you on Wednesdays. I am here every Wednesday with more fun, more books, more stories, and that helps me so much so I can bring more stories to you. Thank you so much for being here today. I will see you next Wednesday, and God bless. Bye-bye.